on a side. People say, they email, I'm so hard on myself, what should I do? In this way of Himma, I have rarely seen anyone hard on themselves, because this is the life of foo-foo psychology, where you go and they say, oh, you have problems, everything is based on your parents bothered you. Really? So your kids don't come to see you anymore. Yeah. Completely corrupt, completely incorrect, and as a result that disease spreads everywhere. So now the email, how do I prevent being hard on myself? Look, when you say hard on yourself is different than what we think of hard on ourselves. When you're hard on yourself, this is not a mental video game where you sit and you argue with yourself and, oh, why you do like that? Right? You're doing actually, you're talking to your waswas. You and shaitan are having a deep conversation and you think this is a struggle of Sufism or tariqah. No. Hard on yourself is not talking into your head and, why did you do that? You're such a rotten person. I know why you're like that. You have to visualize shaitan is sitting on a chair right there talking to you. You're like that. So, Shaykh, why am I so rough on myself? I don't know what you're talking about. You are talking with shaitan and he's having a dialogue with you with your waswas. We don't have that. It's not allowed. You're not supposed to be thinking anything. Everything has to be in action. When you think you have a bad character, provide a physical action to counter it. It's not a mental discussion with your waswas. When you're lazy, the action actually is a physical action. Get up and go out and serve. It's not mentally sit and talking to yourself. This is the mental hospital then, because they have wards and rooms filled with people like that sit and talk to themselves, and they're very hard on themselves. You see how ridiculous this sounds? That you think that's hard on yourself, is just sitting and talking to yourself, but that was nothing to do with the tariqah. Being hard on ourselves is identifying the problem and providing a physical action. When you don't listen and you don't respond, physically fight yourself to get up and do it. When the shaykh says, you didn't do the article, you didn't write this, then immediately next day you're going to write 2. That's a physical action to counter your laziness. Not mentally sit and talk, I'm such a rotten person, I'm such a bad person. Absolutely avoid that. Anytime you find yourself sitting and talking to your waswas, that's not a spiritual struggle, that's a dangerous encounter with shaitan. Because he's going to sit there and just mentally keep going at you. So the himma and the zeal is that I'm lazy and I have to counter it with a physical action. Tomorrow I'm going to go out and give water. I have anger, I'm going to come against my anger. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to go out and give sadaqah. Every time I make a mistake and I did something wrong, give a sadaqah so as a punishment for yourself. Provide an action. Whatever the illness, counter it with a physical action. This is not a discussion forum with shaitan, don't enter into that, because that will put you into a bad sickness. And that's all that shaitan wants, is for people to sit into their heads and just keep talking. And he's sitting there and talking with the servant. And we don't talk to shaitan. We provide actions, and these actions are clear fights against the evilness. That's why the himma and ilham are linked. When you have a himma and a zeal to listen, means if you have to do articles, you do 10 of them, not 10 people tell you you haven't done any of them. People don't have to keep looking for you where you're hiding. You're a person in which you move mountains. You appear and things begin to happen. And this is a rijal. This is the himmat rijal. That they move things. They're strong against themselves. As a result, their inspirations and discussions are with awliya, not with devils. And they don't understand it's hard on themselves, because when you talked before about hard on themselves, if awliya of that time saw something bad, they would take their eye out. That was somebody hard on themselves. Not the mental discussion where we talk with our shaitans and say, I'm very hard on myself. Then I go to psychology and different therapists, and they tell me, oh, I'm hard on myself. But this is actually a life of physical struggle. If you're listening to waswas, very dangerous. Spit and keep going and doing an action. Anything that you think you're not doing right, provide a physical action for it and stop that process. As a result, they have now a himma. When the himma is strong, they understand now mulhimma is opening, ilham. So it has to have a correct. You find yourself a firefighter but you don't have your uniform on, it's not correct. When they have the understanding, they know they have a strong himma. They're doing very strong himma. And it's himma and zeal means they come against themselves.